coordinator, and also Andrea Bruzin. She is the APS manager, and they're going to come up and give us a presentation. Now, Patricia has been with this department, the community coordinator, since 2015, and they are both very familiar with our area and with our community of seniors. But they've also worked in other areas too, making their way up the chain to get to the seniors. Like, if I'm not mistaken, one of you worked with children at one point. So now they're to the end of the road. They're going to take care of us seniors here in Sun City. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to them to give their presentation.
That was wonderful. No, I don't know if I can live up to all of that. That was great. All right, so Pat Moody Brown here, and I'm with the Division of Aging and Adult Services. So let me just give you a quick background. So the Division of Aging and Adult Services is under the umbrella of DES. And so with DES, Department of Economic Security has like 6 other divisions. So under Division of Aging and Adult Services, there's Adult Protective Service, so that's where we work. So my background, I've been an investigator, I've worked in senior living homes, I've done a lot of things. So I'm delighted to be here, and hopefully at the end of this presentation, you guys will have a better understanding about APS, how to file a report. And I'm gonna let Andrea introduce herself.
Good morning. I've been with APS about 13 years. I've had experience in being in the field, being a field supervisor, working in the quality assurance department, and now being a manager over a field unit. Prior to that experience, I was also an outpatient mental health worker in the community, so had an expansive amount of experience in the social services and also collaboration with law enforcement in the field. So it's really appreciate you guys having us out here today.
All right, and in the background is Prasia Bond. She helps with this presentation, so thank you, Prasia, for all you do in the background. So let's talk what we're going to talk about today. I mean, Commander Tina already kind of gave us a background of what we're going to talk about. Let's just go in detail. So we're going to talk about the authorities' duties and limitations. So what does that mean? What can APS do when we go there? What's our authority, right? What's the terms and definition as in statute? We're going to talk about what's the telltale signs? How do you recognize maltreatment? So when you go out there, what are some of the things you want to look for? And once you see that, how do you file a report? We're going to go through that process for you. Plus, we're going to talk about the APS registry. Have you guys heard about the APS registry? Yes? No? No? Yes? We're going to talk about that today. And with the historic passing of HB 2764, which is a new legislation that's great. That's going to help all of you guys here be safer in communities. And mandated reporters, you guys are mandated reporters, so what are your roles as well? And we're going to talk about local and statewide resources, and we'll have resources in the back for you as well. So next, I'm doing the slide. So Andrea is going to take it from here, and then go ahead.
And I apologize, it looks like the slide doesn't have all the information on our limitations, but I'll review the information here. I think a misconception, just to start off with, is a lot of times the community thinks that we're similar to Department of Child Safety. There is a lot of differences in what our roles are. So what we can do is that we can receive reports of abuse, neglect, self-neglect, and exploitation of vulnerable adults throughout the state of Arizona. Unless there's a memorandum of understanding, which is an MOU, if we don't have that with tribal authorities, we cannot go onto the tribal land to conduct an investigation. We currently only have 4 MOUs within the state of Arizona. We evaluate the need for protective services, so that means we'll get the report, we'll go out, evaluate the need, look for offering appropriate services based on the needs, availability, and acceptance, and that's really important. APS is a voluntary program. We can't assume just because we get a report, we are able to force or have somebody accept services, so it is voluntary. Also, we can refer for guardianship and or conservatorship via the public fiduciary when appropriate. We cannot take authority or take guardianship of an individual. Also want to identify that guardianship is only appointed through the courts. we can't make that determination. It has to go through the court process. In regards to requesting medical or financial records during the course of investigation, we do have that authority. And then she mentioned the maintaining of the APS registry.
Andrea, sorry, do you mind explaining the difference between a guardian and a conservator? Because I think a lot of people doesn't know the difference between a guardian and a conservator.
So with the guardian, a guardian makes decisions in regards to medical and financial, and they have the legal authority to make that decision for the individual. A conservator only handles finances. So they only can make decisions on how their funds are gonna be spent or allocated, but they cannot make the legal decisions for personal, medical, or financial decisions if they're just a conservator. There's only the financial portion. Sometimes someone can be both though, so they can be designated for both, but that has to be decided that there's one or the other or both.
Yeah, so in other words, a conservator just handles the money. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Right, the next slide. Perfect, okay. So the biggest question is like, what makes a person vulnerable? So right here, these are by statute, the definitions that we have for a vulnerable adult, definition for incapacity, and then we also have specific categorical areas for a vulnerable adult. So as you can see, anybody over the age of 18 years or older is considered to be within our criteria, but there's specific items there where they have to demonstrate the inability to protect themselves from the maltreatment, which we'll go into further as far as what the maltreatments are, but there's like 4 specific ones. There's abuse, neglect, which includes self-neglect, and then there's also exploitation. So whenever we look through these, there's certain red flags we want to look at when we think about like, well, what does that mean? It could be that you have a neighbor down the street, you notice they've always had an immaculate front yard, and all of a sudden it starts to deteriorate. Or you're noticing that there's people now living in their household that you've never seen there before, and they start talking about how they don't have money anymore to buy groceries or to pay for their medications. Or they're having a handyman come to do work on their house, but you haven't seen that work done, and they've been giving them checks. So there's certain red flags that would cue for you, like, what's going on here? There's something happening, there's a change. So today we're here to talk specifically about lists of scams. It's kind of sad to say, these are kind of like maybe the main ones that you hear about, but there's a lot more out there. I always say, if we had people do more good and bad in this world, we would be so much better off. But the amount of scams that are out there now, people are still crafty, they're convincing, they gain trust quickly, and before you know it, you start to see clients actually believing the conversations are real. So today we're gonna touch on some of the most common ones. Romance scams. You may have seen some of these highlighted like on 60 Minutes. You may have seen them in the news. A lot of these have been coming out. What you see is scammers posing as a love interest, but they just want your money. I'll share this. My father passed away about 2 years ago, and she oddly got this invite on Facebook Messenger to a bereavement group. She didn't make anything of it. She was like, oh, maybe one of my friends invited me, because there was like almost 100 people on this group. Then she got a call through the group, and it was a gentleman trying to connect with her that he lost his wife, and thought it would be nice if they two could talk. Thankfully, I was in the same room when she got the phone call one time, and I was like, who's that calling you through Facebook? That's really strange. Why aren't they calling you through your direct line? And she goes, I don't know, this guy keeps calling me. He just keeps calling me. And I go, well then Mom, I need to get your phone. So I went through her phone, and he had somehow gotten through all these different conversations through like WhatsApp app, having her download different communication channels to take her outside of that group. And he was trying to create a relationship with her. She didn't know who this man was. But it was quickly within a month of my father passing away. She was lonely, and she was actually talking with him. So people are very crafty. Some things to take into account with these romance scams is they will quickly gain their trust, just like they did with my mom. And thankfully I was there. Otherwise, I don't know where I would have gone to be able to correct that and have her recognize what was happening. Sweepstakes. You get them in the mail, a check, or you get an email saying you won a car, you just need to pay for the taxes, because it's in, I think I see Puerto Rico, I've seen it in Jamaica. various out-of-country places where you just have to pay the sales tax, but you're gonna get $1 million with the car. And sadly, people believe it. And you see people liquidating their retirement accounts to get that money, because they're like, oh my God, how did this happen? And they also will place it with clearinghouse. So they use the clearinghouse, which is kind of a credible sweepstakes back late in, was that in the 80s? Would you say that was a time frame? So people think this is legit, it's real. And who would be sending me an email if they didn't know it was me? And I did apply for that. So just to be cautious of that, if you're seeing people going and also buying Green Dot cards, and buying gift cards, and going to the bank, and getting the information and sharing that with them and giving them direct access, because they can't get the money back if they're purchasing gift cards. The money's a loss. There's no financial fraud they can claim at the bank. At that point, they willingly gave their money. And that's the most challenging part with these scams is legally, they knowingly went and got the funds and gave it to that person. So regaining that money, getting that money back is really challenging. And it's a huge network of people behind this that are working on getting people's money. And they're crafty, they get people's trust, they ask the right questions, and they direct you how to walk through getting your money, taking you to the bank, what not to say, what to say. So if you happen to see anybody in your community saying, I won this money, I'm supposed to get this, and they might be secretive about it, or you start to see that their accounts aren't the same, or they can't spend like they used to, kindly ask them. Some people are really embarrassed to say this happened to them, because it happens to a lot of people who do have the ability to make financial choices. They were just tricked. And then call spoofing. Getting a call from your grandson or a dear friend saying, I need your help immediately. I got arrested, I got pulled over. I need you to send $1,200 or $2,500. And it's not a large amount of money that they're initially asking for, but then it continues to grow. That now it's an additional amount, or they're out of country and you have to pay for additional fees. It's always important to have a code word or a safe word with family. I have children in college. We got notified that that was happening with college students, that they were calling the parents in the middle of the night, telling you that your son or daughter was arrested or detained, and campus police had them, and you needed to go and pay this amount, but you had a link to pay it to. And you're thinking it's your child. I want to take care of them. I can't talk to them. I'm going to take care of it. So those code words are important to be able to, because they also have AI now that sounds like the person's voice.
Yeah, and something you want to mention about the sheriff's department, they use someone that you know.
Oh yeah, it's somebody you know, it's a close friend or family. A lot of times it's family. So it's important then to get a hold of somebody else, to contact the person they're saying is the victim, and have them make sure they're okay before you do anything. Anything you want to add to that?
Well, I just want to add that you'll get called from a voice that, you know, like sheriff department, you know, like a sheriff or a governor, or we want to raise money for this fund, and that's all fake. But just remember, guys, you're the eyes and ears of this community. If you see something, say something. It's so important. And if you're not sure, just report it. Let APS decide if that's important or not. Just report it. And like Andrea just said, a lot of times folks are embarrassed. It's embarrassed when they lose $60,000, $80,000 sent to Taiwan. And they're looking again, like you said, for lonely folks. They go on obituaries to see who lost who. Just be careful on social media. I don't have social media. I don't care for it. You know, keep it simple. You know, now the biggest one now in Arizona is you got a toll. You got to pay a toll. Okay, where in Arizona do we have a toll? Come on. Seriously.
I got 3 this week.
Let's talk about that. You know, oh, you have a package just delivered from Amazon. Guess what? I did order a package. What is it? You know, if you didn't put money for a sweepstake, why are you winning? Come on, you got to start thinking.
And also with the packages, they started doing a new one where they're sending it without a return label for who it came from, and it just has a QR code in there, and it appears that you scan that QR code off your phone to find out who it came from, and really they're getting access to your phone. So you're like, I had it, my mother-in-law, she lives in Maryland, she called me and she goes, did you order me socks? And I'm like, I didn't order you no socks. She goes, well, there's no package slip on here, and there's just a QR code to say, it instructed her, this will share, please, like, it was like a gift from who, or gift from, and then you press there, and it was supposed to give you, like, who sent the gift to you. I told her, you need to immediately change your passwords, you need to notify your bank, and she did, and they were already starting to get information in her bank. So they're very crafty.
And the last thing I wanted to add is the Medicare fraud. And the reason why I'm adding this, check with your doctor. If a package come in for a walker or something you didn't order, check with your doctor. If someone said they're calling from your doctor's office, you hang up that phone and then you call your doctors directly. I have books in my car. If you guys need just to write down who your doctors are, I can go to the car and get you a book so you can write that information down. Just don't be believing things over the phone anymore. Verify. Trust, but verify.
And also banks, they're never gonna call you directly and ask you specific questions or information over a text message. To click a link to verify because fraud's been detected on your account, don't click on the link. Call directly to customer service before you initiate any type of information that's transferred over a text message or even an email. It's better to talk to a live person to verify before you're entering information electronically. Because what a lot of times you see happens, or even Microsoft pop-ups, you have a virus on your computer, you need to click this link to get your virus removed. Don't click on that either. There's just so many mechanisms they have in place now that seems trustworthy, and it doesn't want to send you in a state of paranoia, but just a state of awareness. And to second guess and contact the person or provider that's sending you that information to verify it's correct before you proceed with any information being transferred or clicking on access, because clicking gives them that direct access. So
tips to prevent scam.
yeah, so some key tips right here. Right here, as we mentioned, know the caller, confirm who they are, who you're talking to. Right here, be skeptical of urgent requests. A lot of times it's immediate, need action now. It needs to happen within 24 hours. If you don't, this is gonna be what's gonna be the consequence. Protect your personal information. Should not be providing your social security information, date of birth, banking account information, confirming, giving people access to that, and consider unique and complex passwords. Try not to use some common information such as last name and maybe the year of your birth or your dog. Try to be unique in that, something that only you would know, maybe something strange that somebody wouldn't guess. Also, checking your bank and financial records regularly. That gives you an opportunity to get in front of any transactions that may be fraud, and you're able to notify your banks and get those bank accounts closed or new debit cards issued or credit cards. And then using the safe words with family members. Having something maybe established with your family, maybe grandchildren, your children, friends, just so that you have a safe word that everybody knows. If you get a call and it's an urgent situation, you know who it is. So in regards to being prepared to make an APS report, the people in here who has called or used our online reporting? Okay, I see there's one person. So one thing I want to say, when you call or make your report, if you don't have all the information, that's okay. Our central intake is going to guide you through this process, and there could be a case that maybe you have information that somebody else didn't have, so it creates a bigger picture for us to be able to open a report. But some of the main information that we would need is the name and contact information of the reporting source. There is the option of being anonymous, but when you're anonymous, sometimes it isn't to the benefit of the investigator, because you might have more information or a history you want to share with them that can't be captured like in a 3-sentence paragraph. So it just gives an opportunity to follow up and get further clarity on what's happening. The name, demographics, and information about the vulnerable adult. So this, if you don't know their date of birth, that's okay. You can say, I think they're in their mid-60s. Demographics, that would be like their address. And then contact information, phone number. And then the nature of the adult's vulnerabilities, details of their living situation. So you might have a friend that you notice, they're starting to have memory issues. They're not recalling information, or they're starting to have falls at home and you're noticing injuries or they're having bruising or different things, or they're not taking care of themselves as they used to. And then details of their living situation. As I mentioned, you noticed maybe a change in their living environment or a change in their ability to take care of their financials. And then description and dates of the incidents. This is really important for our investigators, such as it is whenever you're receiving a call for service in the community. You want to know as much information about what actually is happening. So if you have a specific date and time or a general time frame. And then also, are there anybody else that knows what's going on? So we call significant others, witnesses to what's occurring, family members, and the alleged perpetrator. So this is who is the individual that's victimizing the client. So who is the person that's perpetrating on that individual? If you don't know who they are, if you know the relationship, that's fine. But if you don't know who they are, and the investigator's job would try to be to determine that. But if you do know, it's helpful. And then if there's any safety or health hazards for the vulnerable adults location, biohazard, pets, animals, guns, anything that you think the investigator would need to know. So there's two methods to reporting. We have our phone intakes and our online. Online is 24 hours. You can submit that. However, our intake phone line would be processed Monday through Friday, 7 to 7, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then Saturdays and Sundays and state holidays, we are open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So our APS process, this is more of a view of how it goes through. So we get the report, our central intake team receives the information, and based upon what is provided, it'll determine if it's going to go to the field for an investigation. If it doesn't meet the threshold, and you're probably wondering what is the threshold, there has to be maltreatment, there has to be an age, there has to be jurisdiction, and there's a fourth one, I wrote it down, because people like to know that. Vulnerability, age, maltreatment, and jurisdiction. If one of those is not there, it becomes an informational report. But as I mentioned, if you call in and have information that adds to another report, it could generate into an investigation. And for our investigation outcomes, there's 3 outcomes we could have. There is unsubstantiated, which is we don't have enough evidence to verify the information that it occurred, or the preponderance of evidence that we can move forward with an administrative hearing for appeals. The next one is verified. And for verified, this applies to self-neglect, lottery scams and telemarketers, potentially another vulnerable adult, and another vulnerable adult potentially harming each other, or an unknown or deceased alleged perpetrator. And then we have substantiated. Substantiated for us is that that it did occur. And that's where we go through the hearing process, which Patricia's gonna speak about that, which is where we have our APS registry, where we have alleged perpetrators that have been found to have caused the harm to the individual.
All right, thank you, Andrea. All right, I have about 5 minutes or so left, so I'll make it quick. So you remember I talked about the APS registry? So what that does, it prevents vulnerable adults and children from being re-victimized by that same person. So like Andrea just said, if the case is substantiated and they go through the administrative hearing and they're placed on the registry, they can be on the registry up to 25 years. So I encourage you, this is the website right here. You can go on it, click on it, put that person's, if you're hiring someone for helping you or a friend, go on this website right here, put that name of that person and check it out. If they're on the registry. If they're on the registry, don't hire them. Don't. And I'll tell you a quick story. I'll tell a quick story. So there is a gentleman that was on the registry, and he went from one facility to the next, and the other facility did not check the registry, and he went and victimized another client in Scottsdale. So again, you just want to be making sure that you're checking the registry. It's there, it's free. Just go on the website and check it out. Okay. The other nice thing is that with this HB 2764, most facilities now has to go on the CBC website, which is the Central Background Check website, where it's a one-stop shop where the employee, they can go in, register, and the employer can go in and register as well. They have the fingerprint clearance card on there. They have child registry on there. They have APS registry on there. One-stop shop where they can go. So starting this year, January 1st of this year, residential institution, nursing homes, those kind of places are able to hire anyone that is on the registry. If they're on the registry, they can't hire them anymore. yesterday was the last day. If someone was on the registry and they're hired at one of these places, they have to be terminated. And moving forward, they have to recheck them annually to make sure that they're not on the registry. So that's good news for adults. And mandated reporters, you are mandated reporters. So again, it's individuals or physician, assistant, registered nurse, peace officers are all mandated reporters. So if they see something, they should be reported to law enforcement or adult protective services. And the nice thing about it, they're protected. Anyone who retaliated against them could be guilty of a class 1 misdemeanor. And you know, if you're interested and you want to look into this further, there's an online course, and there is a quiz after this one. You can take that online, and it will just give you, it's very interactive and it's fun. If you have time, go ahead and take it. It just kind of solidify what we talked about today. And you know, Speak Up AZ, if you see something, say something, you see those bags. And how Speak Up AZ came about, it was a campaign after the incident that happened in 2019. I'm sure most of you that's lived in the valley long enough heard about that incident that happened at Hacienda, where that lady got pregnant from a caregiver that was taking shit. Yeah, you guys remember that story. So our goal is to make sure all Arizonans are educated on how to recognize neglect or any kind of maltreatment. So that's why we're going around, and again, not to scare folks, but just to provide awareness and education. And the nice thing about APS now have our own APS internal resources. So if we have an open case with a client, we can offer these services. If they have bed bugs, we can help them with that situation. If they're having trouble just filling out certain forms like Altex, we can get that application started again. If they're having like need help with assisted with housing, that kind of stuff, we can help, but we have to have an open case. So if we have an open case, we'll be happy to help with some of these services. And this is our website, the APS website. Go to services and adult protective services. And this is the end of our presentation. So if you have any questions for us, we can stay behind to answer any questions.
Or if you have any questions right now you'd like to ask, feel free.
Come on up, Andrea. Yeah.
One thing with AI like it is and everything, if you have on your phone, leave me a message and I'll call you back. If you can, make it electronic. Don't use your own voice anytime unless you know who you're talking to.
That is true.
It's scary.
All they need is two seconds of your voice to clone your voice.
Right.
Andrew, I guess we did so good, they have no question for us. Oh my goodness. Oh, is there a question here?
Oh, yeah, and maybe I'll catch you afterward. You said you can't force anything. One of our challenges is people that are not declared by a court to be, you know, but they are beyond the point where they can actually, you know, they are vulnerable, but they're not court, they don't have guardian or whatever else, or conservative appointed. What can you do about those situations? Anything at all, or is it purely a
I'd still encourage you to.
I would still encourage, so her question was about individuals who still have capacity, but they're seeing that they have marked vulnerabilities, and what can we do for clients like that? I would still encourage you to call Central Intake, and unfortunately, sometimes it takes several calls for the client to finally recognize and accept services, or it may come to a point where we do see that transition over to where there is potentially that we have to look at protective services for that individual. But there may be that they would be willing to at some point to accept some type of resource to help them in the home to mitigate some of the risks that you're seeing.
And I'll just add, and I put this slide back up. You remember when we said, okay, so when they phone that in, and it goes to Central Intake, right? If it doesn't meet an investigation, we could just be offering service referrals. So we might say, oh, let's send this over to AAA, 211. They might just need some Meals on Wheels, or they might just need some light housekeeping. So that's something we can do as well to get that process. Because sometimes even Meals on Wheels, that person that delivers, sometimes there are eyes and ears in the community as well, because we get a lot of report from them as well, just saying this person is hoarding, this person is self-neglecting, that kind of thing. Any other questions for us? Yes, ma'am.
Just speaking about home care in general. Yeah, they're advertised on TV. Are there people on this registry?
So yes, they may be. So
Maybe.
they may be. As far as going onto the APS registry, if you're looking to hire a private caregiver, is that what I'm hearing? If they did get found to have been perpetrating with neglect or abuse or exploitation towards a vulnerable adult, they would be placed on the registry. We could have had an investigation on them. Doesn't mean that it did happen, but that would be your course of action to check. With the new legislation though, it doesn't impact private caregivers that has to be checked. So it is upon you to look at that.
And here's the website, it's free, you just go on there and it's really easy. And Commander Anderson will have the information, and just go on there, it's really easy. And I wish I had more time, I would have just gone on it and just kind of show you some of the things that are on there with money and just awful things that's on the registry, where APS have substantiated. Any other questions for us? And we'll be in the back if you just want to sidebar with us and just have a little private conversation.
Yeah.
If something is like burning, you know? Well, thank you so much for having us.